All right, everybody, welcome in. It is the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Happy Monday.
It is Monday.
And who the hell are you?
I go by the name of Kev Nash.
Did they call you Mr. PTO in high school?
No.
I think that's what
they called me Mr. Perfect Attendance in high school. And I'm making up for lost time.
As you should. As you should. Now, there's been so much confusion with you out because I've started doing another show.
Okay.
Okay. And you've been fired.
Oh.
You've been replaced.
What?
What the hell? No goodbye for Kevin? You can't say goodbye to someone who hasn't gone anywhere. He just went on vacation for a little bit.
Now, I don't want to be cocky or anything like that. Now, I could be replaced on the show. I could definitely see that happen. But being fired from the station itself, judging from my emails that I got when I was on the beach of Puerto Rico, judging by the text messages I got, and judging from me checking my email and seeing the parking lot this weekend when I decided to come into the building, I definitely don't think I'll be getting fired from the company anytime soon.
Well, if you're replaced, by the way, on the show, it'd be your doing, to be clear. But no, while you were out, you always have to keep me in line, right? Me versus the city of Kettering.
Oh, man.
If WrestleMania was in the month of June, the main event would have been Kinner against the entire city of Kettering, not just the tax division this time, as far as that's concerned. But again, hope you had a great trip. Puerto Rico. What's Puerto Rico like this time of year?
Good times, good vibes. I sent you a couple pictures. Definitely got more to send out, and also jump on my IG page at 1KevNash. You want to check out all the photos from me down in Puerto Rico. Great times, man. And something I definitely want to say about the people of Puerto Rico, and not just like the people in the service industry, the people that work at the hotel and the bartenders and stuff like that. They're kind of like paid to be nice to you, stuff like that. But like the actual citizens that just live there, work at whatever store, whatever restaurant, or just people walking around town, just going about their own business, their own life. Awesome people, super friendly. Got a whole bunch of local places that we went from the locals that were there. They're like, don't eat at the hotel. Why would you eat at the hotel? You can eat hotel food anytime you want. Go to this restaurant in the middle of nowhere. Trust me, you'll be fine. Tell them blah blah blah. I sent you. Ask for this bartender. Ask for this waiter, and they'll take great care of you. So it was a great time. I'm looking forward to going back.
They're not nice like the people of Kettering. Are they as nice as the people of Kettering?
I wouldn't know, because when I dared to venture into the building on Saturday, because we had some Juneteenth events going on Saturday that I was participating in. So I got here like super early before they started working on East David Road. So, but when I came back to the station that evening, that's when they were working on it. And it took about 15 minutes to get into the parking lot. Yeah, it was bad. And then when I left for lunch today, smooth sailing getting out. Now coming back was something almost like a train wreck, because they were tearing up the roads, and then one truck was backing down the road. So it was like almost a 3-car pileup as we just sat there. And like, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, well, normally Kinner and I do like a pre-show meeting, like about 2:00. It's 2:15. There will be no pre-show meeting.
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, that pre-show meeting going to be about 9 minutes long, based on the timing of today. But again, we welcome you in, Kinner and Kev Show.
They said I got fired.
Ron Howard. No, they were asking if Kev got fired, because a lot of confusion doing the show with Chatterbox from noon. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, doing a show called Grip It and Rip It.
Rip it.
Grip It and Rip It, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon to 2. And then I leave Hamilton and get back to Dayton today at 2:51. Run in, quickly get everything set up, and bam, off to the races we go. Ron Howard, he approves, by the way, of Puerto Rico. He says they have good weed down there.
Shouts out the issue too.
So,
I cannot confirm or deny.
That caught you off guard. I apologize. Usually you're a lot quicker at responding to that. I was like, oh.
I was on vacation.
Nonetheless,
we work in radio. We don't get tested for that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, they never mind. We're not going there. But anyway, so a lot's happened while you were gone. I mean, kind of. I mean, it is the month of June. This is the time that you should be going on vacation. Not everyone. I mean, I do it kind of I'm kind of silly when I do this. I wait till September to go on my trip to Florida, then I'm always like stressed while I'm in Florida in September because I'm always looking for, back is like, your high school football, you got your Sunday morning show. Let's see what else. We got the Kinner Kev Show. Yeah. Now we got Chatterbox I got to worry about. Yeah. I don't know why I picked September to go to Pensacola, but it's not changing, nonetheless. But
yeah, man, like there's so much that went on while I was away. And one of my things I was trying to do while I was away was kind of like disconnect from social media, not pay as much attention to what was going on in the world of sports outside of the NBA finals. But somehow, some way, sports is always comes back calling. It delivered yesterday. It delivered with some news that broke about Hard Knocks. So it's a lot going on.
So that's what we open up with again, kind of news or not news, because I'm lazy. So I'm gonna take some of the stuff we did on, Grip It and Rip It and bring it right over here.
Different show, man. Yeah, different show, different audience.
By the way, we are Dayton's radio home for Cincinnati Reds baseball. The Reds will be in action coming up later on tonight, 6:40. The first pitch, 6:10 coverage begins. Reds and Pirates later on tonight. Carson Spears on the mound, and then Skeen's going to be on the mound for the Pirates. I guess what Dunn is his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So, nonetheless, that's what everyone's talking about. Storm's coming outside.
It is. It's on its way. And you know what? I cut my grass yesterday, and I couldn't even call it grass because it wasn't green. I cut my hay yesterday.
Well, hay is, my hay's growing pretty fast over there at the old Kinner Estates, nonetheless. But, all right, news, not news. Dodger shortstop Mookie Betts broke his left hand when he was hit by a pitch during the 7th inning against the Kansas City Royals. I'd say that's news, or is that not news?
I mean, it's always news when one of the best players, not only on their team, but in baseball, breaks his hand, is going to be out for a nice amount of time. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Mookie Betts on his podcast was talking about Michael Parsons dared say he could hit 300 at the MLB level, which is like the craziest thing. We talked about that back and forth between the NFL and NBA players and all that type of stuff. There's no doubt in the world that Michael Parsons would go 0 for 500 if he went up against a real MLB pitcher. But nonetheless,
give him half a hit for a foul tip. Give him a half a hit for a foul tip, as far as that's concerned. So I kind of said that, like, it's news, yes, but the Dodgers, they have an all-star lineup.
Right.
If the Reds lose, and I talked about this with Jacob earlier on our show today, the Reds lose Ellie De La Cruz, they're done for. They're done for, right? They lose their best player, they're done for. The Dodgers, it's not ideal to lose Mookie Betts, especially a broken wrist, and you don't know when he'll be back. But keep in mind, you still have the deepest lineup in baseball.
Right.
They have an 8-game lead in their division. They're making the playoffs. They're going to win 90 to 100-plus games. This only becomes news is if we get closer to September and there's not a time frame for which they can expect him back. Then that becomes news at that point. But for right now, I don't look at this as news. The Dodgers will be just fine. I don't feel bad for the Dodgers. I feel bad for Mookie. I'm a big Mookie fan.
Yeah.
I'm not, making light of a player injury, missing time or any of that. But at the same time, I don't think it's news yet, but it can be big picture. The Dodgers have the depth to overcome some of those obstacles. We'll just Dodger fans hoping that obstacle is not something that they're having to overcome come September. As far as that's
question, is Mookie Betts the type of player that gets butts in the seats like an Aaron Judge, like a Shohei? Is he that type of guy for I guess casual fans?
I don't want to say no, but maybe not for me. I guess that's like a collective vote type of thing. I mean, when the Dodgers come to Great American Ballpark, is Mookie Betts that player for you guys watching at home on YouTube, the Facebook page, or listening at home? Like, is that a player that you have to stop what you're doing to get to the ballpark to see? I don't know if there's a lot of those guys in baseball. Shohei Ohtani for me is definitely one. Aaron Judge, just because of his just pure size. I mean, alone, he's a freaking monster. I'd put him up there plus who he plays for. I don't know if Mookie is, and that's not. I like Mookie Betts, but I don't know if that's a player that you stop what you're doing to go watch. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but for me, I would say not. He's not in my list, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think everybody recognizes how good of a player he is. I mean, going back to when he was with the Red Sox. I mean, he was a baller there. He's a baller with the Dodgers, but I don't think like he's a guy like people are just like, oh man, they're in town, we gotta go. Like, you're going to see the Dodgers and all the Dodgers that they have to offer, not specifically for Mookie Betts.
Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Shaw's in the chat.
Shawski.
Shaw says, how you doing, fellas? Hope you had a great week, Kev. Kinner, hope you were well. Thank you, kind sir. Thank you. But he also says, Dodgers dealing with injuries. Boo-hoo, Crimea River. My Braves have been dealing with injuries all season. He also says, no, Mookie does not bring me to the ballpark.
Fair enough.
The WNBA gets talked about a lot as of late, and I think what the identity crisis that league is having is there's a difference between good players and draws, and I don't think there's a lot of draws in the WNBA outside of one, maybe two particular new players to the league. I think that's that disassociation that they're trying to associate with, if you will. Baseball's kind of the same. Don't confuse really, really good players with being a draw, but I'm not going to, I don't know, like Mookie's just kind of in that, Jose Altuve is another one that like, hey, that's a hell of a player to go watch, but I'm not stopping what I'm doing to go watch as far as that's concerned. I think Ellie De La Cruz, I mean, you have guys on your team too. Ramirez, another, I don't know if he's a draw.
I don't think so.
For me.
Not for the average fan. For me, because I'm a fan of the team. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but the day we got to Puerto Rico, and one of the days while we were down there, it dawned on me that I was supposed to be going to that game, the Guardians and the Reds game, but we switched the dates. And I was like, wait, they're playing now? No, I'm missing the game. But they split that series, right?
They did.
1-1? Yeah,
they did. They split that, and they desperately needed that because they go on to drop 2 or 3 against the Brewers after that, as far as that's concerned. But nonetheless, that's kind of where it's at right now. Mookie Betts, we'll see what ends up happening when it's all said. Ellie De La Cruz, am I a homer? I think he's a draw.
No, I think he's a draw too.
Okay, so I was like,
not only from his bat, but like once he gets on base, you never know what's going to happen.
He's doing things that like Mookie does a ton of things really, really well, but he doesn't do anything that is. There's a lot of players that could do what he does, maybe not all of it collectively, but there's the Ellie thing is like he is the best in the league at stealing bases, and he's electric and he creates plays. You don't really talk about that in baseball often, creating plays. Ellie creates plays. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, Ellie, just imagine, for people that haven't watched the Reds, I imagine a whole bunch of people listening to us watch a ton of Reds baseball, but he is basically what Randy Moss would be if he played baseball. They're the same size. That's what Randy Moss would have been if he'd have played baseball. And if Ellie would have played football, that's who he would have been. He would have been Randy Moss. That's the type of athlete you're dealing with Ellie.
All right, news, not news. We'll get back into that. I'd love to do a list of top 5. It's list season.
Let's get it on.
Welcome back. I think tomorrow's show we'll dive into this, but a top 5 players that it's top 5 draws in baseball, but top 5, yeah. But boxers or briefs, that type of thing. But top 5 draws in Major League Baseball, as far as that's concerned. But all right, let's go on to the association. Hey. Charles Barkley has announced that next season will be his last on NBA TV, as he will retire following the 2024-25 NBA season. News, not news.
Oh, this is big news because not only of everything going on with TNT, basically giving up the rights to the NBA. And I was having this big conversation with my brother about TNT and why they need to do whatever they need to do to keep it. Like, what is TNT known for outside of basketball? That's what they're known for. They're known for having now the March Madness, back in the day it was only on CBS, but now they carry March Madness games. And obviously they carry, the Tuesday and Thursday night NBA games and the playoff games. Like, that's what their whole thing is. Other than the NBA, you're watching, Charmed, you're watching Saved by the Bell, you're watching reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond, you're watching basically every Marvel movie that ever came out in NBA basketball. What else does TNT offer than NBA basketball? So why would you not continue to carry your flagship programming? I think it's a bad look for TNT not stepping up to the plate and keep this thing going. And Charles Barkley probably wouldn't have retired if this whole situation wasn't going on with, them, losing their rights to the NBA. So this is bad for, the whole Turner family, man, because what else? Who watches TNT outside of like, oh man, we're going to watch it when they show A Christmas Story about 100 times in a row. Like, I don't watch TNT outside of the NBA.
Kinner Kev 1410 ESPN Radio, definitely news. And Charles Barkley, top 75 player, right? Was he part of that list? So
yeah,
when Charles Barkley, a top 75 player, retired from basketball, that was a big deal. But I still think Charles Barkley, post-playing day career, leaving the NBA, is a bigger deal than when he left as a player, and he was a hell of a player.
Yeah.
This leaves a big void in the media landscape too, because one thing Jacob and I talked about earlier, Jacob Tissett, shout out to him. He's the other one that has been tasked with dealing with me for 2 hours, a couple days a week. But one thing him and I
should do a show together.
He loves the association. I told him that too. I was like, man, I go, you and Kev would get along great. You both love the association. I love the association too. But the bottom line is with Charles Barkley, like the one thing that I'm trying to figure out from people is, people love Tim. I love Tim Legler. A lot of people love Tim Legler. You like the podcast with JJ Redick and LeBron, the X's and O's. And it's like, well, what do you want out of your studio shows? Do you want to be educated or do you want to be entertained? And they're not saying both can't be true at the same time. But I think that, Charles Barkley isn't really known for the X's and O's. He's known for the entertainment aspect, right? Tim Legler will do a million times better job breaking down game quality stuff than he will be entertaining, right? So it's like those out there that said Tim Legler should replace him. By the way, I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, like, the bottom line is I think it's just based on people's preferences. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, do you want to be entertained or do you want to be educated on the game itself? And there's going to be a crowd of people in both sides. But I think what Charles Barkley showed us, being entertaining is very, very important.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot more people that will bring the educated part of the equation to the table than the entertaining side. Draymond's okay. I just don't think you're not replacing them. You're not.
No, you can't. You can't replace a personality and a voice and a figure like Charles Barkley by simply grabbing, the new hothead of the NBA. Barkley was the hothead of his era. But I mean, what makes their show so special is, you have your quote unquote buttoned up reporter guy in Ernie Johnson, who lets his hair down, who drives the ship. But on this program, he lets his hair down, is one of the guys. And then you have Barkley being Barkley. And then you have Shaq, and him and Shaq are going at each other constantly, like big brother, little brother, all the time. And then you have Kenny the Jet Smith kind of in the middle, the quote unquote educator of the guys, but he's a goofball too.
Yeah.
So, even when he's doing his educational part, it's still entertaining. He's racing the guys to the telestrator and things like that. The show is awesome. It's going to be desperately missed. I liken this to, people of my age remember the show with Ahmad Rashad. They used to come on NBC on Saturdays. And like once that kind of like went off the air, I was crushed. I was like, man, this is my childhood. Like, NBA Jam Session and all that type of stuff. Inside the NBA was the name of it. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. Like, what are we gonna do? But the TNT show came and that ran for like 25 years or something like that. It's been on, and it's been something like that I've fell in love with, and so many other people have fell in love with. So we're gonna transition to something else. My biggest question for if it's whoever's going to have these shows now, if it's going to be NBC or Amazon Prime, who's going to have the new flagship show, are you going to be able to get away with some of the stuff that they were able to get away with? Because the only reason you're able to get away with that stuff is because it's Charles Barkley. Somebody else can't get away with some of the things that Barkley says. Talking about the churros and talking about the size of women in certain states, San Antonio, talking all reckless about Minnesota. He can get away with that because he's Charles Barkley. Draymond's not going to be able to get away with it. He can say it, but it's not going to be laughed off as a joke like it is with Charles Barkley. And then, there are the other things that with the social injustice that was going on. Kenny Smith decided not to do the show and stand in solidarity with his NBA brethren the time that they decided not to play a game. You think that's going to go well? Yeah. You think that's going to go so well over a network? I mean, TNT is a cable network. This is going to be going to NBC. This is the Peacock, dude. Like they used to show Cheers, and before Cosby went off the rails, the Cosby Show. These are wholesome networks. So I'm curious how this thing is going to flow ultimately. I mean, even look at the Sunday night football studio show. Like, it's very buttoned up. It's not loosey-goosey at all, like, the TNT guys.
All right, more news or not news coming up here around the corner. Big news out of the NFL when it comes to Hard Knocks. It's not one. I mean, we already know that what was the one team that was announced?
Bears.
The Bears. So the Bears are, of course, going to be a part of Hard Knocks, but now it's not just, now they're adding more teams.
Not one, not two, not three, but four.
4 teams, 1 division, Hard Knocks. the best division in football. We got that coming up around the corner. College football stuff. Ohio State, Oregon announced that it will not be a noon kickoff, or at least has been reported that it won't be a noon kickoff. So of course it's time for our annual. What's your prime preference? Prime preference: a noon kick, a night kick, and especially a matchup like Ohio State, Oregon, as far as that's concerned. But Shaw jumps in too. He says, I want what TNT on Thursday night gave you, X's and O's plus entertainment. That's the goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean that they could provide it. I don't like ESPN's. There's something, I don't know what it is. There's just something off with theirs right now. It doesn't.
I saw
the individual talent.
Yeah.
But as collectively, it doesn't click. I don't know.
It's not running as smoothly. I did like when they had
Jalen Rose.
Jalen. Yeah, that was awesome. I'm a huge Jalen guy. But when they had some of the current players come on there, Paul George was just on there, and Embiid just popped up. So, it's the NBA Finals, so I'm sure a lot of guys are in town, so you're getting more of that instant gratification from the guys that are still in the league. Chris Paul was on there for a couple episodes. Josh Hart. I like that aspect of it, but it's you're not gonna get the TNT pop. You're just not, because it's a very unique individual, that the individual being Charles Barkley. And then, before Shaq joined, him and Kenny had been doing this thing longer than their NBA careers.
Yep.
They've been on that show longer than they played in the NBA. So it's definitely going to be missed.
All right. Former Buckeye Joey Bosa also had an interesting comment regarding his decision to take a pay cut in this offseason. We have that coming up around the corner as well.
Team guy.
Well, yeah, he's always been a team guy. Always been a team guy. All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash. We'll be back in just a few moments. And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Kev Nash back after a week in Puerto Rico.
What up, though?
How was the 1% in Puerto Rico?
Doing good.
I'm proud of you.
Don't make me. I just got back.
Well, I mean, you rose hell. You started a fire and you just left.
Man, oh man.
Rinse, cycle, repeat. But
you know.
But yeah, Kev Nash back. No, he did not leave the show. No, he was not fired. No, he was not replaced. For whatever reason, I decided to do more work, and I'm doing another show 3 days a week. Going to Hamilton to the Chatterbox Studios, working with Jacob Tissett. Shout out to Jacob, great dude. So Jacob and I doing the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon to 2 from Hamilton, called Grip It and Rip It.
Grip it.
And then getting in the truck and getting right back down to Dayton, or I guess be going up at that point, but up to Dayton at that point to jump in here and do the Kinner and Kev Show. So for whatever reason, 4 hours of talk a day.
You like radio, don't you?
Nonetheless, love talking Bengals. That's what it is. Speaking of the Bengals, Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
So the Bengals are going to be on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The Steelers are going to be on Hard Knocks
for the first time.
That's pretty cool. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns going to be on Hard Knocks. That's pretty cool. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, will be on Hard Knocks. That's pretty cool. Mike Tomlin, Harbaugh, Zach Taylor, and of course, 2-time Coach of the Year, Mr. Kevin Stefanski. They're going to be on Hard Knocks. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson. I mean, these guys are all going to be on Hard Knocks. That's pretty cool. For the first time ever, an entire division will be followed on Hard Knocks. The Chicago Bears, not part of the AFC North, nothing to do with the AFC North outside of the only tie-in being Justin Fields, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course. But they'll get the original Hard Knocks coverage. Yeah. This is a new one, but pretty cool. Best division in football, correct?
Absolutely.
Like we say that definitively.
Hands down.
You look at the West.
Competitive head to toe.
Okay.
Or top to bottom, however you want to say it.
So they're all on Hard Knocks. So that whole thing's going to be covered. I think that's fast. I think that's the most. I agree that they are the best division in football. However, the West gives them a good run for their money in the NFC.
Okay.
When you look at the Seahawks, the Niners, the Rams, and now the Cardinals, who have a legitimate combo at quarterback and wide receiver, assuming Marvin Harrison Jr. lives up to the hype. I mean, we could see the entire NFC West finish above 500.
Yeah.
Just the way we could with the AFC North. And I think that with the NFC, I don't think it's going to be as weak as it was last year, but I do think it's possible that all four of those teams are fighting for a playoff spot at the West next season. I still think the reason I separate the North from the West and the NFC is because all the teams in the AFC North are super competitive, yes, but quarterback play out duels. I think the quarterback play over in the West, but there's some good quarterbacks in the West.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy's good. All right. You look at the Seahawks, they're okay. The Rams, obviously Stafford, depending on what Stafford you're getting, pretty good. But it's, and Kyler Murray's a wild card. I think he's still he's underrated a little bit. But at the same time, I don't think that, he's elite, but I do think he's better than what people give him credit for. I thought he played really, really well last year. Just got overshadowed because he played well on a bad team. So,
missed half the season.
Yeah.
So many rumors about him basically going to shut down the entire season, decided to come back and shoot the back half of the season. He played some good football. I mean, they came to Pittsburgh and won. Yep. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. I mean, you figure like, oh, man, the Arizona Cardinals are coming to Pittsburgh in November. That's a win. Wrong. He came out there and balled and didn't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. to throw the football to. So you expect him to be a lot better. Did you ever watch the in-season Hard Knocks before?
No. Who was on that one last year?
Last year was the Dolphins. It was the Dolphins.
I did not.
I watched part of it. Didn't really get, oh my goodness, this is awesome. But this I think is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be amazing content. I mean, you're getting 4 for the price of 1 in the most competitive division in football. I wouldn't say the most popular, but I would say it is the most competitive. I think the most popular would probably be the NFC East, probably the most passionate fan bases out there. But I think from top to bottom, the best in a situation where you're probably going to get down to the last couple of weeks of the regular season to find out who wins the division and who's going to make the playoffs. I mean, shoot, we look at the Cincinnati Bengals and like, oh man, they came in last place, but shoot, they were right there. They had 9 wins and they were right there with a backup quarterback with a chance to make the playoffs. So competitive football, it happens in the North.
So that's going to be covered on Hard Knocks. It's pretty exciting. I think that's pretty neat. The thing is, I'm just wondering how they're going to do it. What was the selling point? I mean, the selling point being is the best division in football. Maybe that's the selling point. Was the selling point that the Browns weren't willing to give full, because I've read reports where the Browns weren't willing to give full access just because we all know what Hard Knocks would turn into, right? Like it would just be, I mean, obviously they're going to follow the quarterback on every team, but it would be like, I wonder if this, because there's a reason the Steelers have never been on it. They've fought hard to not be on it. Some of these teams have fought hard not to be on it. So I wonder if because you're splitting it between 4 teams, it's not nearly as much access. Maybe that, I mean, I would still think that there's going to be 4 crews following all the teams equal amount, and then they pull the most interesting stuff from it. But I do find it interesting that all 4 teams will be covered. And like, why go this route versus just picking the Chiefs, the Bengals, maybe the Eagles and the Niners and 4 Super Bowl contenders or whatever.
Right.
Either way, I'm a fan of this. The AFC North, definitely, because of the quarterbacks, I think, are the most interesting division on top of that, because the quarterback play, the coaches, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I think you pick an entire division for a reason, because in the division, no matter what happens during, September, it always comes like November, December. It always seems to work itself out there. Like, hey, man, they're only 1 game back, like in a division, and you get division matchups. If you pick the Bills and the Chiefs and the Cowboys and the 49ers, like, I mean, you're going to get interesting stuff because it's football, because that's what football provides. But like, you're about to get matchups versus teams. You're going to see one team planning to play another team and vice versa throughout that situation. I mean, I know the Steelers have like that crazy run where I believe it's the Ravens, Browns, and then the Ravens again, or something crazy like that. So they're boom, 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 division opponents back to back to back to back. That's going to create great episodes right there.
518-1410. I haven't thrown out the phone number in a while. I almost
call us up. Hit us up.
518-1410. You guys like the Hard Knocks, the 4-team, 1 division edition? The Chicago Bears, obviously, they were announced as this year's upcoming Hard Knocks team, but now they're adding another one with the whole division of the AFC North, as far as that's concerned. Look, I don't know. Look, budgets is probably going to be the answer to why they don't do this, but I mean, you would have to get to the point to where, I mean, I don't know how you would do this, I guess, but like, I guess I would send crews to every team in the NFL and then just pull the most interesting. I don't know how you would, you know what I mean? Or maybe AFC one year, NFC, then I don't know. But I do like, the thing is a start. I like this idea going division by, maybe next year it's a different division.
Right.
A couple more teams, cover more ground. The Giants, because they did the preseason one or the offseason edition one. I have no interest. The Giants, I don't care that it's New York, and then New York was the appeal for them. But I have no interest in Daniel Jones. I have no interest in the New York Giants whatsoever. So that doesn't appeal to me. But if they did the East, and it's like, okay, I don't have to tune in just for the Giants. Curious to see what the Commanders are doing with new ownership, as they kind of, new quarterback and Jane Daniels. It's always the Cowboys, obviously. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts and company, how does their front office operate behind the scenes? Division by division, I think, is the route to go moving forward. And maybe we're done with the 1-team thing, or maybe it's 1 team in a division every year. I don't know.
I would like that. I would like that. I would like 1 team in the division. Okay, so let's pretend they didn't do the North. What division would you want them to do?
Then let's see. So if it wasn't the AFC North, the NFC West, second best division to me, but I don't find them. I don't find them as interesting. I think characters matter. I don't think Purdy is interesting. To be honest with you, although there's drama in San Francisco, of course, everything going on with Brandon Ayuk, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Why am I drawing a blank on Seattle's QB? I'm a fan of his too, and apparently a huge fan. So Geno Smith, you can follow that. I like their wide receiver crew. But I think that the most entertaining one, I would say the AFC West. I would put the AFC West second. You got Harbaugh with the Chargers now. Harbaugh is a goofball, so I'd like to kind of see how that. You have Antonio Pierce leading the Raiders. He's a big personality. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, which they just they're a walking headline right now this offseason. And then Denver with Sean Payton. I would say the AFC West is the division I'd like to see next, as far as entertaining purposes are concerned.
What about the AFC South? You get the Texans with C.J. Stroud. everything they got going on there. You have Richardson from the Colts coming into his second year, basically his rookie year. You know, he got hurt last year.
I mean, Levis likes working in front of the camera, so sorry, I interrupted. My bad.
No, you're good. And then you got everything going on with Trevor Lawrence getting the new contract. So, like that's a lot of stuff to sell itself as well. New contract for him, high expectations, third year in the system with Doug Peterson. So I wouldn't mind that.
Harbaugh or Ryan Roth says Harbaugh's a booger eater. So there's that.
Probably.
Shaw says, I don't agree the AFC North is the best. The NFC North, AFC West this season, over the long haul, I would say AFC North. So the NFC North, you're putting above the AFC North? I mean, that's your opinion. That's fine. But so he's saying the NFC North. Oh, there's Shaw. That's your damn love for JJ McCarthy. You need to get out of here with that stuff. But I do look, I like okay, hold up. Damn it, Shaw. You might be a little right. You're not right. I don't think they're better than the North. I do think the NFC North might be the most underrated conference or a division heading into the season because you got Jordan Love, who this might be a breakout season for him. Okay. Minnesota, if JJ McCarthy is who all the cheaters say he is, then he's going to have an embarrassment of riches of weapons to work with, right? And same thing with, you look at the Bears right now with Caleb Williams, and you look at DJ Moore, and you look at Keenan Allen, and they get Adunze, of course. I mean, and then you have, Swift at running back. I mean, they have an embarrassment of riches of weapons as far as that's concerned. Detroit, offense, defense, they're a Super Bowl contender, and then Jordan Love and the Packers. All right, they're interesting. They're good. I don't think they're better than the AFC North. I might change my stance. I might like the North better than the West as far as that's concerned collectively.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not a bad pull. But I mean, we're obviously hoping for, better quarterback play out of, all those guys, especially from the Chicago Bears standpoint. And the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, Kirk Cousins was very good for them, but got hurt. So their situation fell off. But I'm going to still go with the North. Not only from best teams, but most entertaining. I mean, you do still have the 2-time MVP in your division. You still have Joe Burrow and his 2 big-time stud wide receivers in that division who have recently been to the Super Bowl. You have a storied franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers with Russell Wilson trying to rebound his career. And then you have the 2-time head coach of the year and Stefanski and a retooled offense. Like, people forget like the whole offensive staff has been flipped, so there's a lot of talking points. I mean, there's talking points about every single team in every division, but I think you have more talking points about this division. And I think that those teams are better. I just think they're better. And I mean, we're going to get to the NFC North. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching all of it. Actually, I don't even like the traditional Hard Knocks all like that, like I used to. But I think the in-season one is more entertaining because they're going week to week. We've seen half of the season play out already. We know what you kind of need to go and win this division and everything like that. So I think the in-season one is going to be the one that really takes off.
Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Ryan Roth, he jumps in the chat. He says the NFC North is very entertaining, minus the Bears. They will still suck. I mean, if they stink, it's because Caleb Williams doesn't live up to expectations. I don't know much about the defense, where that's going to rank amongst top defenses in the league.
They were good last year.
But Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Adunze, I don't know how you could say that they stink outside of you just don't like Caleb Williams and just say that. But I don't know if you could say that. I can't tell you that they're going to be elite, but there's way more reasons why they're going to be really, really good than bad at this point, unless Caleb Williams just totally falls in his face.
This is the craziest part about the NFL. Right now, we're sitting in June 17th, day after Father's Day, and we're talking about the NFL season. Right now, I don't think you can pick the AFC or NFC North winner. I think that any of those teams could win their division. I think the Steelers, Bengals, Browns, Ravens can win their division. Same thing for the North in the NFC version. Like, I think both those divisions are wide open. I don't think you could say that about every division out there in football. I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks that the Broncos are going to win the West.
A lot happened while you were gone. We got a new quarterback sitting atop the highest paid quarterback label in the NFL. Your head coach, Mike Tomlin, signs a 3-year extension. We got to that coming up around the corner. Brendan Ayuk let some news slip on Instagram, I guess. Les Miles suing LSU. Go Tigers. So much to dive into. What else is? I know there's a lot more that we have to get into nonetheless, but we have plenty of time to do so. Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
You're live. Whether it's expanding your business, upgrading your
All right, and we are back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Shaw says he bets, Kev, that I'll bet the show that the NFC North sends more teams to the playoffs than the AFC North.
I'll take that bet.
AFC is tougher than the NFC, so that's fine, but I don't know if that means it's better as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I still take that. But I mean, I think 3 of the 4 North teams get in.
Yeah, I'm going with 3 from the North, AFC North, and I think 2 from the NFC North.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Green Bay. I don't dislike Love. I just need to see that. I need to visually see him take that next step. And in his defense, they didn't give him a Dunze. They didn't give him a DJ Moore. They had a Keenan Allen. They didn't give him a Justin Jefferson or an Addison. So it's not all like when his offense doesn't look as crisp as those other 2 offenses in that division. It's not technically going to be all on it. And he doesn't have look at what the Lions have. I mean, that's the worst offense in the division. Doesn't mean it's a bad offense. It's not flashy. I don't think it's explosive. So I can't put my money on them as far as that's concerned.
Really?
I'm not a McCarthy guy. I need to
So
see
wait. So you're saying the best offense in the NFC North is who?
I'm going to say right now, I'm going to roll with the Bears.
Wow.
As far as that's concerned.
Over the Lions.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. The Lions, best offense in there. I'll put the Bears second. Wow. And I'll put the Vikings third. And I think the Vikings have a high ceiling if JJ McCarthy is who everyone says he is.
Okay.
And if he is, then they might be the best offense in that division because he has every weapon imaginable to be that guy. I just think he'll hold them back more than they'll elevate him. But if I'm wrong, then there you go.
So you think that Green Bay has the worst offense?
I think they do. Not bad.
Right.
The worst. I just think it's
somebody got to be the worst. Somebody got to be fourth.
It's just going to be I think it's just going to be okay. I think it's going to be the most balanced. Let's just put it that way.
So rank their quarterbacks then.
Rank the quarterbacks. I'll put McCarthy as the worst in that division. I'm gonna put Goff as the best, but again, a month in, we might be looking at Caleb Williams saying he's the best in that division. Right. But I'm gonna go Goff just because we've seen it.
Right.
And we've seen Love, but I still think Caleb Williams. I'll put at number 2. Wow. I'll put
you
Love
high
at
on
3.
Caleb.
I'll put Love at 3, because it's not often when a guy has been anointed as the guy like that. There's a difference between bust and just being okay. Like Trevor Lawrence is a prime example. $55 million a year. And I don't think he's been elite. He's just been very, very good. Mm-hmm. But everyone's saying, oh man, like he's been kind of a bust. I'm like, he's not a bust. He's a very good NFL quarterback that has not lived up to the Joe Burrow hype, that did not live up to the Andrew Luck hype. And that was the caliber player he was coming out of college. Right. And Caleb Williams is right up there with that. So if he's just good, he's still better than Jordan Love to me at that point, if that's the case. McCarthy, I mean, we've seen nothing for me to know that he's anything other than the worst quarterback in that division. But again, high ceiling because of all the weapons he has to work with. We'll see.
I think the Lions have the best offense, but I think the best quarterback in the division is Caleb Love.
Oh, you go okay. Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. Combined them. Yeah, they're one and the same. No, Caleb. I did it again. Jordan Love. I think he's the best quarterback in that division. I think he's the best.
His bad games were. I mean, his games. Games were bad, and of course, I'm negative, so that's all I focus on, right? But yeah, like I said, that's a very interesting division too.
Yeah,
that's been one of the worst divisions for quite some time, outside of the Lions being interesting, but it could be the best division in football by the end of the year.
Yeah.
The NFC's and that's why this is going to go in cycles too, by the way. It's just that's just kind of how this goes as far as that's concerned. But but yeah, who has the highest ceiling in that division though?
Team-wise?
Team/quarterback.
I think it's the Packers. I think that offense is going to be crazy. I mean, Christian Watson, if he could just catch the ball. Yeah. That's like your job as a wide receiver to catch the ball. Romeo Doubs, I think they got a lot of very good wide receivers. And I think that Jordan Love is an elite quarterback. And I think his second year as a starter, I think we're about to see a big step, a huge step. Green Bay.
At that point, we're never allowed to question their quarterback decisions ever moving forward. And that includes Jordan Love. If they draft a quarterback 12 years from now,
right.
You just shut up. You just be quiet.
This is
because you don't know what you're talking about at that point. Can the Packers do it again? That's going
That's going to be
Tim.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity. You touched on something with Trevor Lawrence, him now being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I obviously wasn't on the show. What was your instant reaction to that?
Again, it's the problem I have with the market. I'm not a market is the market guy. I mean, the market is the market, so that's a fact. I hate the market. I don't think that there should be an NFL market. I think there should be a team by team market. I mean, like this idea that Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow each making 55, that they're the same player. It's not. They're not. And Tua said this comment, I think last week, I think we were out, and he's not wrong. This is why I wasn't hating on Tua, but when he said the market is the market, I'm like, well, he's not wrong. But at the same time, the market being the market is how you get Daniel Jones at 40 mil. The market is the market is how the Browns almost ended up with Baker Mayfield at that time at 40 mil, which that was super high at that time. Daniel Jones, 40 mil, still high considering they basically lost Saquon Barkley because of it. I mean, it wasn't directly tied to that, but that played a role in why they weren't quick to get a deal with Saquon Barkley done, because they were more worried about the quarterback. And it wasn't a quarterback that I thought was worth disrupting the rest of the relationships you have with the elite players at other positions on that roster. So at the same time, though, Trevor Lawrence is a dangerous quarterback, because that's not a quarterback you just move on from. That I'm not comparing him to Baker Mayfield. Like, the Browns was right to move on from Baker Mayfield. I thought they were right to take a chance to go get a Deshaun Watson, right? Trevor Lawrence, though, no, you give him that money. I still think there's something there. Yeah. I still think there's something there. I don't think it's the same situation as Baker, but we'll see.
So is it fair to throw out his rookie year? You know, the debacle that everything that went on with
Herbs now.
I know you guys are tight.
Yeah,
you guys are bros now. You know what I'm saying? But everything that went on with Coach Meyer we don't need to rehash those incidents, but things didn't work out well. So he had that year. Then he gets Doug Peterson. For the first half of that season, he was mid at best. That second half of the season, he was awesome. And let's not forget, in that playoff game, in the first half, he was absolutely terrible. 4 interceptions he threw, if I'm not mistaken. Second half, they had to come back victory over the Chargers. Brandon Staley helped by going for it on 4th down for some crazy reason so many times, and they ultimately came back and won that game. And they had a good game with the Kansas City Chiefs in the next round. High expectations last year. In the first half of the season, before injuries and everything started to take place, he was good. Back half of the season, he was horrible. He was bad. I mean, shoot, they were 1 win away from a clinching the playoff spot, and they lost to Tennessee Titans. Much of that was on Trevor Lawrence. So now you fast forward to this offseason where, like, hey, man, we got to get a deal done. I think this is still a good deal. Yes, currently right now, he's the highest paid quarterback, but somebody's going to bump that. And not only are you paying for the quarterback for what they've done in the past, but you're also paying them, or any player, for what they're going to be doing in the future. You believe that this is the guy. You believe like he's going to take a big jump going forward, and you're going to get a bargain in years to come. Just like, everything with the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at how much Mahomes is getting paid now. It's pennies compared to what everybody else is. They locked it in early. They realized, like, this is the guy. Granted, he was able to get them a Super Bowl. But, you pay early, and hopefully everything works out, because what's your alternative? Like, what are you going to do? Like you said, he's been tabbed as the guy since he was in high school, and he hasn't been horrible. He hasn't been Justin Fields out there. Yeah. He hasn't played like that. He's actually, produced with his arm and his legs. He's actually helped teams win games. So I don't think that it's far-fetched to believe like that you give it another go with him, so to speak.
Well, I will say this. Justin Fields, being as bad as he was, technically helped the Bears more than Trevor Lawrence has helped his team.
I like that.
Because he let them know he's not the guy.
Right.
There was no one. I mean, there was the debt, right? There was times last season where it was like, okay, go prove to us that you're the guy so we don't have to take Caleb. But like, he did more for the Bears by not being the guy than Trevor Lawrence, who's this tweener guy that we think we got the right guy. Where it's basically they're gambling at this point. They are gambling to where the Chiefs weren't gambling. The Bengals don't feel like they're gambling.
Right.
Okay. Like they knew that they had their guy. As far as that's concerned, but nonetheless, it's not a horrible deal.
I don't think it's a horrible deal. And he's
a weird quarterback. He's a very weird quarterback.
Another thing about the the whole thing with Justin Fields is what people forget is this is a new regime that is in charge of the Chicago Bears. So not only do they have that gave Justin a shot, but they have to get quote unquote their guy in there and to reset the quarterback clock. So like they would be in this position to have to pay Justin Fields this whole bunch of money for the things that the other regime wasn't able to give them. They wouldn't be able to give Justin Fields, Keenan Allen and the running back from Philly. They wouldn't have been able to do that because they would have had to pay him. They're able to do that because they moved off of Justin Fields because they didn't pay him. Now they're paying a rookie quarterback. So I think it's best for everybody involved that, they moved on from Justin Fields. He gets a fresh start. They get a fresh start. And most importantly, for them running the organization, it's their jobs on the line. Like, no, we're going to run it back with Justin. And then what? You're not going to have those pieces that everybody are so hype about that Caleb Williams is getting to play with. Because if they were go ahead and roll Caleb Williams out there with the same weapons that they rolled out there for Justin Fields, what do you think going to happen? It's going to turn out the exact same way.
And that's kind of the old school NFL approach was we're not going to give you weapons until we see that you can do it. So that's why, as much as I hate the cheater that is JJ McCarthy, all right, I need some peace and quiet zen, but I'm going to go do it in front of everybody so they look at me and disrupt my peace and quiet. That guy. But no, when it comes to that, I want that to work. I want Caleb Williams to work. I want those two teams examples of we're not going to wait and see if he's good before we give him weapons. Yeah. We're going to just we're going to go all in right now. Because they could have easily just moved on from Justin Jefferson because, we have Addison and we have a quarterback on a rookie deal. We will still be good offensively and we'll just load that money else. No, we're going to give him the best receiver in football, arguably, in Justin Jefferson. All right. We're going to give him Addison. They have the tight end. McCarthy has no excuse. So if those two ball out, if McCarthy and Caleb Williams play like a top 10 quarterback this year, the way CJ Stroud did last year for the Texans with his weapons, if that might be the new trend moving forward, where we no longer have to watch. Well, is Joe Burrow the guy in Cincinnati? Okay, he is. Now we'll be aggressive and go get a Jamar Chase. Right. Now now it's like, let's be aggressive for a rookie quarterback versus let's wait to be aggressive and then make them look like the fool. I'm hoping Justin Fields is the last example of that. We'll see what happens when it's all said and done. It's a Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. David M. on YouTube. How are you, sir? He says, hello, Kinner and Kev. I feel like the NFL players and union are more than ever before trying to work owners towards removing the league salary cap entirely whenever the current labor deal ends, a la Major League Baseball. David, can you elaborate a little more? Are you familiar with what he's saying?
I know what he's talking about, but I'm not smart enough to understand that type of stuff. Like,
is there something happening right now?
I've heard it before. They were talking about it on whose podcast was? I think it was listening to Ryan Russillo's podcast, and they were talking about the Trevor Lawrence deal and everything like that. And it's like an angle, and they were also talking about it with Cam Hayward, Steelers defensive lineman, and he's trying to get a new contract with them.
With the Browns too,
I heard that. Heard that. But like the players are always going to angle for the players, and this is more of a baseball thing that the players kind of always have to push the envelope to take more because it's the players' union. Yeah. It's the owners. The players' union is there. That's the purpose of a union, to be united, because you're wanting the betterment not only for yourself but your fellow player, and to keep the thing going for the fellow players, because you are a player, not a owner. It's very similar to like how Michael Jordan's stance was when he was a player. He was always players' union guy, and then he owned the team, and then he's a player union guy. Yeah. So it's a switch. It's a clear switch. And as much as LeBron is a player's guy right now, the moment he takes ownership of the NBA team that's going to be in Las Vegas, because that is what's going to happen, he is going to be a owner's guy. He's not going to be a player's guy anymore. And that's the process of business.
So I'm glad you bring this up, because it's a good point. And it's actually made me rearrange how I want to approach this with that, because if there's a player's view and an owner's view, it always gets turned into fans having to take a side, when I don't think that should be the case. I think it should always be from a fan's view. And we as fans don't like the salary cap issues in Major League Baseball. And I think that the NFL is king right now, because I do think it's the most perfectly structured professional sport out there from a fan perspective. Okay. Because what's good for the player is not always good for the fan.
Right.
What's good for the team is not always good for the player, and it's not always good for the fan. What's good for the fan is not always good for the player. What's good for the fan is 17, 18 regular season games, more games that matter, more games that aren't preseason crap games. Right. So, but that's good for fans, but it's not good for the players.
Right.
What's good for owners is 18 games. That's more money in their pocket. Not good for the players. What's good for the players is a salary cap, because they could just make unlimited money, but that's not good for the owners who don't have that type of money. So that needs to be understood, that there's no such thing as a perfect landscape as far as that's concerned.
Right.
Someone is not getting something.
Right.
And maybe it's a little bit like in the NFL, I think everyone is in some ways getting a little bit of not what they want in some capacity. But the owners are getting more of what they want more than any other sport out there. I think the fans get more of what they want than any other sport out there. I do think that the players get the least, right? And the quarterbacks get a lot, but that's about it. But then I do know this. I don't want the salary cap thing to disappear in the NFL, but it is interesting watching the wide receiver numbers continue to go up. Like something's going to bust at some point, right? Like, I mean, I know it's going to keep going up, but I mean, it can't. I mean, it will, but it can't keep going at the pace that it is. I mean, Patrick Mahomes got a $45 million deal, and we thought, oh my God, this is insane. Now that's a bargain, and that was only 5 years ago. It can't keep going up now it's 55. So in 5 years it'll be 65, and in 10 years it'll be 75. Like, I don't see how that continues to go up at that level. But maybe, I mean, media rights deals, who knows? But so if the players get their angle and the owners get their angle, as a fan, I'm not pulling for the player to get what they want. I don't care what the owner, but technically as a fan, and I know you are more pro player, but as a fan, our interests and owner interests are actually more similar than fan and player interests. Because when the player gets exactly what he wants, it's almost at the expense of what the team can do, or at least how it's been framed to us that, oh man, the selfish player took all the money. Now we can't afford this. Therefore, I'm team ownership, right? Like that's like, I don't care about the player getting his money from that perspective, because the more money Joe Burrow gets, the less money now we have as Bengals fans, as fans of a team, to go get this guy. T. Higgins is ultimate. It's not, I'm not taking a shot here. Joe Burrow got paid. That's why T. Higgins is leaving. That's not exactly the direct correlation, but in essence, it is. T. Higgins is leaving the Bengals after next year because Jamar Chase is going to get 35, maybe 36. That's why he's leaving. He's leaving because Joe Burrow got his 55. He's leaving because they had to put money in an offensive line because they couldn't draft it, right? Like that's the reality of it. That's the same thing on all teams as far as that's concerned. So for me, that's why I align more with ownership, not because I'm rooting for the billionaires. It's because I'm rooting for, if the team wins in negotiations, I win as a fan because that's more money to spend on other really good players from that perspective. But yeah, not everyone views it that way.
Yeah, and this is why NFL is king, because you get constant back and forth. For a lot of people out there, the player is always viewed as a rich, spoiled person, while the owner, who is able to afford to pay multiple people on his team millions and millions of dollars every single season. And then we talk about, the lesser tier guys, the guys that are backups, they're getting hundreds of $1,000s. I mean, I don't even know who the highest paid kicker is in the NFL. Probably Tucker.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's a millionaire as well. You know what I'm saying? So we don't think about that. But what makes this sport so great is because of the salary cap, because you have constant juggling. At some point, like, okay, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I know at some point the Browns are going to have to deal with the Deshaun Watson thing. Well, y'all got it now. Well, y'all got to deal with it later. Okay, y'all got Jamar Chase, Cincinnati Bengals, and T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. Well, you're not going to be able to keep them all. You're not going to be able to keep them all and keep Hendrickson and keep this player. At some point, somebody's going to want to get paid, and you're going to be out of there. And that's how fans keep their teams in it, because they know at some point, hey, man, it doesn't last forever. It can't last forever. It's structured not to last forever. It's structured in a way that literally there's teams that have like a 3-year cycle. And after that 3-4 year cycle is up, chances are you're not going to be real good. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, they made the playoffs, but like nobody's saying they're real good. I'm a fan of the team. I know they're not real good. We're going to see how they are this year, but like nobody's thinking they're real good. They had their window of opportunity. They didn't cash in. So now they're middle of the road, just like half of the other teams in the NFL. So like that's what keeps this sport very interesting to the masses, because there's so much turnover and there's so many opportunities still available for your team, even if your team sucks. Even if that team is so great, they still got to pay them. And just like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They moved off of Tyreek Hill, like we talk about all the time, and they still won it. That's why people are so mad. Like, wait, you lost Tyreek Hill and you still won the Super Bowl? How is that possible? Well, it's all about playing the game right. It's playing the numbers game right. You talk about the Cleveland Browns having enough capital to continually push that envelope down the hill and down the road before you actually have to pay up, because you got so much capital up front. Teams like the Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers don't have that type of money to pay up front. So we're just waiting our turn. Like, all right, man, all we need to do is draft a franchise quarterback, get him on a rookie deal, and pay him a whole bunch of money. Oh, we didn't have to draft a new quarterback. We got a veteran quarterback for a bag of nickels because they overpaid for him, and they being the Denver Broncos. So this game is more than the game.
I mean, the Niners are a prime example. They've been able – I feel like this roster's been around forever.
Yeah.
And it's because it basically almost has, because they've gone from Trey Lance to Brock Purdy, and that's been about a 4-year window with year number 5. It's been 5 years with basically this roster. When you look at the offensive line, you look at the defense, and you look at Ayuk, and you look at all the weapons that they have and the weapons that they have on that side. But guess what? Now there's some drama because now they have to pay Brock Purdy coming up, and now it's interesting. So now their downfall will come. But guess what? The Seahawks, they have all these wide receivers. They're going to draft a rookie quarterback coming up soon. And then guess what? Now, while they're paying that rookie quarterback, now they can keep those wide. And then the Seahawks are going to be back to form again for a little bit. The Rams built like the Browns, or the Browns built like the Rams, minus the Super Bowl, of course. But the structure as far as how they go about doing that stuff. But as far as the kickers go, Kev, Jake Elliott with the Eagles makes $6 million a year, and Justin Tucker each makes $6 million. Yeah, the kickers, and they get guaranteed money as well. He got Justin Tucker $14 million guaranteed over that contract length of 3 years. So nonetheless, as far as that goes. But when I think of guys that are team first guys like Joey Bosa, true patriot. The Bosas, I should say. He was more Nick Bosa, but both they're cut from the same cloth. But to be fair to the Bosas in this particular situation, the one thing about Nick and Joey Bosa, they are business guys. Business first. The NFL is their business. To me, it's a game that I'm a fan of. To them, that is their business. And even in college, it was their business. And, I remember the drama, me and some Buckeye reporters, if you will, butted heads because of my take on Nick Bosa, who I was not a fan of the fact that when he had the season-ending injury with Ohio State, that year that they lost to Purdue, that he basically just said, okay, well, my time here is done. So I can't play the rest of the year. Not only I'm just going to go ahead and he was a captain, and he ultimately just went to stay with his brother Joey in San Diego at the time because the Chargers were still in San Diego, and then wasn't there for his team throughout the season. And then when they get to the Rose Bowl, then showed up to get all the attention on the sidelines. I was not a fan of that. I poked at that as I don't respect that. I don't like that. I think if you're a captain, even if you're out with the season-ending injury, your presence matters, even on the sideline, even at practice, even in the locker room. And I thought that was a bad look. I got ripped for that. Okay, whatever. But
killed you on the boards.
Killed me on the boards. Yes. So Joey Bosa comes out with the Chargers and says that he took a pay cut because winning is more important than making extra money. Now, we can have fun with this however you'd like. He took $2 million less. Now, $2 million. I mean, I'll take $1 million. I want $1 million.
I'll take that.
But good. So he took less, but people are having fun with that, kind of poking fun, this, that, the other. I mean, a lot of guys had to take pay cuts to stay with the Chargers. They moved on from Keenan Allen. They moved on from Eckler. They moved on from guys that were not willing to reset or to readjust their money situation. Bosa did. Good for him. They have Khalil Mack still there, right? So Khalil Mack did the same thing. He redid his contract to take less money. So they have big names on defense, no names on offense outside of Herbert at this point. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Joey Bosa taking less money because winning is more important. It's that Harbaugh. Harbaugh comes in and just changes the culture, takes selfish Buckeyes and turns them into team first guys. Good for him.
It just kind of reminds me about what happens against every other player out there. Is they're basically set with an ultimatum of, hey, we're going to restructure this deal or you'll be cut type of situation. Now, if he was cut, I'm sure he would have a great market and a great landing spot, but it's all about when you're cut as well. Like you want to be cut earlier than later so you can, cash in a big contract with somebody else. So you really left with, little to no options but to take a reduced salary, kind of like how Joe Mixon was situation. Like, all right, man, like, hey, this is a spot where I'm comfortable, especially with Mixon. It was a team that they thought they could win the Super Bowl with. Why not take the pay cut and then roll the dice and quote unquote bet on yourself? But in the Bosa situation, like it's so late in the game, like you kind of have to do this.
Yep.
You kind of stuck at what to do.
It was kind of like when Joe Mixon did that with the Bengals last year. Icky, I remember he came on and I know I made him mad because I was saying, like, what, Joe Mixon? I mean, it wasn't a leader move. He didn't take the pay cut because he wanted to help the team win. It was take the pay cut or be cut. Right? Like, and that's the reality of it. And that it's not a shot at Joe Mixon, but that's the reality. I mean, the Bengals media was trying to turn it into, oh man, he took one for the team. He sacrificed for the team. And it was like, no, he still got $5 million a year. If he would have hit the free agent market, he would have got less than the $5 million. As far as that's concerned, it was good business is what it was, but
big business,
good business for both sides. All right. Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. I don't even know why do we cancel these meetings all the time in email? Why don't we just email us when we're going to have a meeting? Wouldn't that just make better sense at this point? Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Think another email's coming your way.
All right, and we are back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Kind of a cool picture that Notre Dame released. Former Steelers running back Jerome Bettis, Plaxico Burress, and Ike Taylor all take a picture with their sons who've all committed to play football at Notre Dame. But
wow,
it's kind of,
see that.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat little picture of all the legends, taking a group picture with all their sons or whatever. But all dudes that I watched growing up now with their sons playing in college. Old 34-year-old is what I feel like. But
old man.
Nonetheless.
Old man Kinner.
So Ohio State announced. So last week we had Dave Biddle on while you were out. And one thing that him and I talked about was the thing with, everything kind of changing in college athletics a little bit. What was the magic number? Like, so in the college football playoff at 4, the magic number of 2, if you had 2 losses, you're out. You're not making the playoff. So I asked him with the 12-team playoff, what do we think that magic number is going to be? And we think 3. I think, or 4, I think maybe 3, you could probably still make it depending on what the 3 are, and how you go about losing. Probably no blowouts, but if you have 3 close losses against top 10 teams, whatever, it's most likely going to be an ACC, sorry, definitely not ACC. Most likely going to be a Big Ten or a SEC school as far as that's concerned. But we also talked about the teams probably going to be surprised if we talk about Texas coming up and Alabama and Georgia. Those are the series coming up for Ohio State, and whether or not I think, I asked him, I go, do we actually think that they're going to keep them? And we hope that they do. Dave said he hopes that they do, but like he would understand if they didn't, because the thing is, you don't need to risk with playing USC and playing Oregon and playing Washington and playing Michigan and playing Penn State, and you hope Michigan State gets back, to where they once were, and you keep going down the list. You don't need to risk if that is a 3, if that number is 3, you don't need to pick up a loss early in the season when you got to play a gauntlet of a schedule in the back. And it's not like some years you'll have it light and other years it'll be heavy. It'll get to the point where you're playing a heavy schedule every year, and you don't want to risk playing an Alabama or a Texas or a Georgia in September when you got all these gauntlets of teams that you got to play in the back end. But he doesn't think that they will cancel those, because who would approach it first? Alabama has asked to get out of the contract. Well, they'll look weak.
Right.
Ohio State's not going to ask to get out of the contract. They'll look weak. So he thinks that they'll keep these games on the schedule. They just won't. Well, we won't see these types of matchups once these are done. Now, again, that's a good thing. That's 6 more years of these cool matchups for Ohio State, but don't expect to see it after that, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, so disappointing. So disappointing. I mean, one of my favorite memories as being an Ohio State fan was the opportunity to go to the Ohio State-Texas game in Texas. It was the year after Ohio State beat Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Troy Smith came back. Teddy Ginn was on that team. Gonzalez was on that team. That was the year Troy went on to win the Heisman Trophy. I think it's something cool about going on the road. Your colors on their field. Yes, it's very cool to see Ohio State play a night game in Wisconsin. It's very cool to see Ohio State go to the whiteout game in Penn State. But you know what? We see that at least twice every 4 years. We see that. We don't get to see Ohio State travel to Alabama. We don't get to see Ohio State travel to Texas, and vice versa. The year before that, the Vince Young led Longhorns that went on to beat USC in that Classic Championship game. They played at the Shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like that was I was mad because the Buckeyes lost, but I mean, that was a great game. Like you're able to produce these great games and these great matchups of teams that traditionally don't play each other. I would hate to see that go away as a college football fan, because it's no longer going to be college football. It's just going to be football, because I mean, that college football is already NFL light as it is. We're moving closer and closer to that, NFL format in the college game already. If you take away like these prominent non-conference matchups, it is the NFL.
And being the NFL is not a terrible thing.
No.
But at the same time, everything that these teams do is business related.
Yes.
So that's why these will go away. And I'll say it this way, like the reason you had to put Texas and Alabama and Georgia on the schedule is because let's be honest, I don't care what anyone says. I have not been a Big Ten fan for a long time. I think the Big Ten is, I think honestly, it's pretty overrated. Up until Michigan started cheating and actually carrying their weight, It was Kev, it was bad. It was Ohio State and everybody else. And I don't think that's a hot take. I mean, and I don't think it did itself any favors by doing the divisions where you're playing a 2-loss Iowa every year in the Big Ten title game, or a Purdue or someone like that, like where you just knew it was going to be, the gap was going to be a 25-point line. I thought the Big Ten's been horribly run for a while, in my opinion, from a football perspective, because they did themselves no favors. They were more concerned about Michigan, Ohio State playing each other in back-to-back weeks at the expense of not putting your conference in a position to succeed. It wasn't a very good conference. Penn State, they're a very good program. They're not an elite program. I think they're a very overhyped program for far too long now. Michigan State's declined, obviously. Iowa's elite defense, putrid offense, can't do anything. Like Michigan finally went from Harbaugh almost being fired to cheating to winning a national championship finally. And I will always say that because they did. Not a hot take, not opinion. They cheated, right? So the Big Ten is always driven. It's been nuts. So Ohio State, they had to put Georgia on the schedule. They had to put an Alabama. They had to put Texas. They had to put a Notre Dame. They had to put Oregon. They had to put these types of teams on the schedule in a 14 playoff system, because you could end up paying nobody in the non-conference, maybe stub your toe against Michigan or Penn State, be a one-loss team, and the Big Ten was so bad, where's your quality wins coming from? You had to put those teams in the non-con. Now, when you're going to be playing Oregon, when you're going to be playing Washington, it doesn't mean that those teams are going to be good every year, but those are still more respectable programs, okay? Like, it's still going to be fine. Like, you're guaranteed to make the 12-team college football playoff. Why put yourself in position to risk missing it? Ohio State put Texas, Alabama, Georgia on the schedule to give themselves a chance to make the playoffs. Now those teams, you're putting them on the schedule and you're giving yourself a chance to miss the playoffs because they're on it. That's why from that, I know what you're saying. Like, yeah, that's going to be cool watching that, but I think you're going to get that feeling in the Bulls in the playoff. Okay. You're going to get that, maybe not at the shoe, but you're going to get those matchups, in the playoff when it's all said and done. But I would be really ticked off if they missed the playoff because they played Texas when they didn't have to. They played Alabama when they didn't have to. You lose by a field goal to Penn State. You lose a tough one against Michigan. That's not why you missed the playoff. You missed the playoff because you lost to Texas in September when you didn't have to. That's where I would be upset about that. That's a instant, gratification thing that you're putting at the front burner versus big picture. But you know what? I'd say for two guys in our 30s and 40s without kids, I think we've always been pretty disciplined as far as that's concerned.
Not arguing with you, but to your point about, like, you don't get the butterflies in your stomach feeling when Ohio State plays football.
Yep.
Outside of when Michigan just came back to resurgence and everything like that. Well, I mean, I'm looking at this year's schedule.
Yep.
Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, at Michigan State, Iowa, at Oregon, a game my brother's going to. I'm so jealous. And he went to the fight on Saturday. I'm jealous. Anyway,
you went to the Super Bowl because you went to visit your brother. I don't want to hear it.
Hey,
visit him more then.
You know what? Hey, you're right. You're absolutely right. Nebraska, who stop me if y'all said this before. I think Nebraska is going to be good this year. I've said that like 4 years in a row, but I really think that they're going to be good this year. At Penn State, Purdue, at Northwestern, Indiana, close it out at home versus Michigan. Any of those games give you that early butterfly feeling? I'm sure it's not Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall. I'm sure it's not none of those games. So if we're going to be removing more of those games that could potentially give you those butterflies, then we can't complain about, like, oh man, Ohio State doesn't play anybody. They're not giving us anything to watch. Oh, we're watching the walk-ons in the fourth quarter. Like, we can't have both things at the same time, right?
But that's the thing. People fill up the shoe. They don't care. They watch it. Me and you have a hard time trying to get people hyped up for the Akron game. You want to give the MAC respect, and I'm just like, put an S in front of it and smack me, why don't you? Like, I mean, it is what it is at this point. But no, you're not wrong. Again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the perspective of players, owners, and fans. What's good for the teams isn't good for what's good for the teams isn't always good for the fans, and what's good for the fans isn't always good for the conference, and this, that, and the other. That's kind of where we're at as far as that's concerned. But as this thing picks up and the scheduling model changes,
right,
when they scrap divisions, you're going to run into some of these teams more and more and more. Ohio State was supposed to play somebody this year, and
I think it's Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
They were supposed to.
I think I can find that out,
but they changed it. I thought it was Washington. I thought they changed it.
No, I thought that was Michigan. That was supposed to play
it was
Washington.
Michigan, but I thought there's a reason. Ohio State, to their credit, they always play someone in the non-con of substance. This is the only year they did it, but I thought they took it off the schedule for something. And I don't remember.
I'm almost positive it was Georgia.
And then they got pushed back, right?
Yeah.
Because it was something with the COVID season. I don't know. Either way. But nonetheless, yeah, Ohio State, it's not a sexy non-conference. That's for sure. But
so the Georgia matchup now is pushed back to 2030 and 2031.
So that's the last one because they'll have Texas next year and then the Alabama series 2 years from now and then the Georgia series or 4 years. Yeah, either way. So, okay. Well, interesting. You think all those get played? You think those get played?
No.
I said no too until Dave brought up a good point about who's going to blink first? Who's going to no team, no program wants to look weak. They don't want it to be spun as well. Georgia didn't want to play it anymore. Oh, they're afraid of Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't want to look like they're afraid to play Georgia or Texas or Alabama. So from that perspective, I'm like, oh, maybe they do play then because who's going to blink first? As far as that's
depends on the power of the athletic director that is going to quote unquote cancel those games. If they're a powerful athletic director and they're a powerful team and they go out there and cancel the game and then ultimately win the national championship, then what are we going to say? They're going to say, smart business move, smart move. You won it. You won the chip. But I mean, even the reason why you shouldn't take it off of there, you should still play these games because if you're in Ohio State and you do lose to Bama or Georgia or whatever, but you can still make your way to the college football playoff by winning the conference. Win the conference and you'll be perfectly fine. And there's been plenty of teams out there that have played tough non-conference schedules and won the national championship before. So like, I'm just like, hey man, like play the game, man. Play the game, win the game. Play the game, win the game. Whatever's on the schedule, whatever's in your way, play it and win it. Because if we're making college football NFL like, the Chiefs aren't complaining about, the Steelers aren't complaining about having to play the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens and the Browns and back to back weeks. The schedule's the schedule. Nobody's going to cry for you if you lose. Go out there and win the game, man. Win the game. Play the game, win the game.
Roger on Facebook says, what up, Kinner and Kev?
Hello.
He also says, good to see that traffic wasn't bad, Kinner. Shout out
Only
to Roger.
if you knew.
He was hanging out on the Chatterbox earlier for Grippin' and Rippin', of course.
Over or under amount of speeding tickets Kinner gets in the fall.
Then I said, I go, Kinner and Kev at 3, maybe. Might just be Kev at 3 unless, something, we'll see what happens.
A lot of association talk.
There's that. But let's see what else we got on here nonetheless. But so I brought all that up in closing here on this part that Jerry Emig, Ohio State SID, says Ohio State has made 2 changes to its 2025 football schedule. The Buckeyes will no longer face UConn on October 18th in 2025. The department has replaced that contest by adding a game against Grambling.
Hopefully the marching band comes.
So
it'll be a battle of the bands. That'll be a good battle of the bands for sure.
Battle of the bands. I like that.
The bands will be more entertaining than the game.
But those are the matchups coming to a shoe near you. More so on the regular. But nonetheless, there you go. 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. NBA finals continuing on tonight. You got the Mavericks obviously trying to just stay alive. Right, the Celtics looking to have the most championships in the history of the NBA. If they can find a way to pull the trigger here tonight. Is this a gentleman's sweep? We'll talk about that coming up around the corner as well. Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark, the gift that just keeps on giving as far as that's concerned. But I have a complaint about WNBA media when we come back. And it's something to think about, too, is the biggest complaint I have about WNBA media right now is telling fans what they need to be interested in. That's my complaint right now. Like Schefter doesn't tell us what NFL teams we need to be interested in. Windhorst doesn't tell us. These NBA finals teams, don't worry about them. You need to be thinking about this. Stop scolding the fan base. We'll talk about that when we come back. A gentleman's sweep tonight. Well, all right, we'll find out. All right, Drew's about Windhorst just laying in on Luka. It might have worked though.
Cone.
If JJ Redick isn't careful, it might be Windhorst, the ultimate motivator, that'll take his spot as potential head coach of the Lakers. Surprised we don't have a coach yet there. While you were gone, the Hurley thing. A lot happened while you were gone. Actually, a lot didn't happen, but almost happened. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back, 4:48 here in the Miami Valley. It's the Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. NBA Finals, Game 5 coming up here tonight. Gentlemen sweep. Is that what's happening tonight, or is this finals going to be extended? Kev?
Nah, it's over, bro. This is a situation that's going to happen tonight where it's not going to be Tatum. It's not going to be Brown. It's not going to be Horford. It's going to be, one of the bench guys going crazy from three-point line. Pritchard probably going to hit like 6 threes in this game. It's going to be it's going to be a collective effort. Basically, everybody out there is going to have like 15 points that plays for the Celtics. The bench guys are going to get in. Remember that finals? I guess it was the first championship of the Big Three, well, their only championship of the Big Three with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Remember how that finals ended versus the Lakers?
Oh, it was like the worst blowout loss for Kobe and the Lakers ever.
It was bad, and I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I think it's going to be over by halftime.
It's weird, the ebbs and the flows of these series in all sports. Like, you can usually just tell kind of how it's going to go. But maybe there's something different. Maybe Kyrie, Luka. Luka finally kind of put it all together to help extend this series a little bit as far as that's concerned. But it's in Boston. 3-1 lead, looking to go for the title tonight, and 6.5 is the line. Boston favored, and I could be wrong. When was the last time the home team did Denver? When was the last time the home team won it on their home floor? I can't remember the last time.
Denver, they won.
Was it in Denver last year? I thought they won it on the road.
I'm almost positive it was in Denver.
Maybe I think it. Either way, for the longest time, it felt like, man, I hate when NBA teams win it on the road.
Really?
I kind of hope Boston wins. I'm sure there's some satisfaction of there's that competitive drive that you love seeing the disappointment in all the home teams and the home fans' faces. But I just think there's when the Celtics won their last championship with Kevin Garnett, that was in Boston, and that was cool seeing the confetti come down and the fans and the white jersey. Right, the home jersey, the way it's supposed to be, right? Like the home jersey. Come on now. LeBron winning his titles on the road, that was kind of a bummer. Imagine winning that in Cleveland. Imagine winning that, at whatever they called it back then. Gundor, it was Gun for me growing up. What the hell is it called now?
Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Oh, Quicken Loans and all that stuff.
Yes, the Q.
The Quicken.
Downtown in the Q.
I was gonna say. But so are you looking that up if they won it in Denver?
It was in Miami.
So I was going to say, I don't know the last time.
I lied.
It was in Denver.
It was in Denver.
Okay. Well, before that, then I don't remember the last time it was a home, as far as that's concerned. But either way, I'm hoping that, and I guess too, by the way, the new rule change, according to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, during the NBA Finals, when the season ends, teams are allowed to re-sign their own players starting tonight.
Yes.
That's a new rule.
Yes.
So free agency is still a couple weeks away or whatever. It's more than a couple weeks away. Isn't it after the draft or before? Is it before the draft that free agency?
It's after the draft. So it's always around 4th of July weekend. So basically all those guys, when we're off, having 4th of July fun, they're signing big contracts or agreeing to contracts, and news gets broken.
So do you think there'll be a slew of guys signing with their own? This was done to kind of help prevent the tampering stuff a little bit.
Yes. I believe guys like OG and Anunoby, guys that you basically expect to re-sign with their teams already. These deals are handshake. No, we're going to come on, man.
He could go for the tour.
He's not going to go on the tour.
He's
not going to go on a tour. He's just going to, take his time, weigh his options as he should. He's earned it.
JJ, their next head coach.
Yes. Is that a good move?
I think today, yes, actually. I actually think JJ will be better for today's climate than Hurley. Hurley, what makes him a great coach is what makes him a great college coach. I don't know if that would have made him a great pros coach. He's a psychopath. Try that with LeBron. Try that with an NBA official. Try that, his antics in college. And I'm not bad-mouthing Hurley, but I watched him a lot. Yeah. Coaching the A-10, and he was here at UD Arena. That's not going to work in the NBA.
No. But I think wouldn't I believe that he would tone it down or readjust then how then
that's taking away what makes him great.
Okay.
Then in my opinion, then that takes away what makes him him. Because you could say, well, his X's and O's. We all can't know if his X's and O's are better than JJ's or anyone else's. The reason I say JJ in today's climate will be very, very good is because he gets the player. and the players respect him. And he actually has earned that respect from the players over the last 3 or 4 years because he's been battling the Stephen A. Smiths and all this. Now, you guys can mock that, but the bottom line is that matters because he's had their back, basically bringing the players' perspective in these debates back and forth that have led to conflict with media because he is like, hey, I'm not playing the media game. I'm the former player. I know how these athletes think, and I think he can connect with them. And I think that a lot of those players, he'll have their respect in that locker room. Not that Hurley wouldn't, but I think that he knows how to talk to NBA players to where Hurley doesn't. Right. And I think that's why JJ will succeed as far as that's concerned.
My thought about the Hurley situation is the Lakers, it's going to sound crazy. I think they lowballed him. I think that's the 6 years for $70 million is a lowball offer for a coach that has won 2 national championships, not only just 2 national championships, back-to-back national championships. You're going to pay him less than Monty Williams up in Detroit. Like, I'm not saying like you got to, pay him what Pop is making, what Kerr's making, what Spo is making. Nobody's saying that, but like you want to be comparable to, an established coach in order for him to actually leave a situation where he's trying to do something that hasn't been done since UCLA back in the day with a three-peat. I listened to a couple different podcasts, and I'm not sure if I necessarily believe that this was kind of like a smokescreen situation with the JJ Redick thing, but like I don't think like they made their best offer for him to come, because like if they truly wanted him, they would have made a better offer than they did. As far as JJ showing up with the Lakers coach, I think it is a good fit for him. I mean, shoot, you get to coach LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, I think that would be a good fit for you and I to be the head coach. I mean, hey, here's the ball, guys. High pick and roll. Like, I mean, like how much coaching are you truly doing? Like you said, all these dudes know the X's and O's. Like they know this. Like the guys know it. The players know it. The assistant coaches they all know the same stuff. It's about, all right, setting your rotations. My biggest question mark for the Los Angeles Lakers is this is the worst you guys have looked in quite a long time. This is being run like a mom and pop situation, which the Los Angeles Lakers are, a mom and pop organization. What are you going to do? Are you going to allow the coach to coach players? Are you going to allow JJ to actually coach you hard and hold you accountable? Or is this just a situation where, hey, man, JJ has done a podcast with LeBron. They're cool. They just hired his guy. Like, that can be bad for the locker room. And, I mean, shoot, this isn't a personal thought of my own. I've heard them talking about this on ESPN. Like, they've been in the play-in every single year outside of the bubble year.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a coaching issue. Like, I don't think that there's a coach out there. Phil Jackson. Well, let's just use Phil Jackson's handling of the league back then. Like when he was at his peak, you could take the best coach in NBA history. I don't think they're coaching the Lakers out of the play-in because I don't think that it's just a good team. I don't think they're a very good team. I just think they're okay. And the other thing too is there's not a coach out there. Like there's a habit here. Like I'm a LeBron defender more than anyone else, more than you even, right? So with that being said, LeBron's biggest fault through his entire career has been his lack of willingness to want to play for the best of the best when it comes to coaches. He hates playing with rookies. He hates playing with new players, but he loves playing for new coaches. Like he doesn't know. Like seriously, he's been in the league for 21 years. Whoever they hire will be his 10th different head coach. Of the 10 head coaches that he will ultimately play for, 6 of them have all been first-year head coaches.
Okay.
Like for a guy, and he's been around the league long enough that you can connect dots on the patterns of he doesn't like playing. There's a reason when they drafted Andrew Wiggins when he came back to Cleveland. Right. No, get him out. Get Kevin Love over here. He didn't want to wait for him to develop.
Right.
He's never wanted when they went to Miami. I mean, he won the championship with Norris Cole, but that's because budget-wise they had to. There was no more cap to go get it. But Mario Chalmers and all that. So he had to play with young players there because he had to. But anytime he's gone to a new team and he's had the ability to push young players out to bring veteran players in or his guys in, he does that. He doesn't want to play with young, inexperienced players because he wants to play with guys that know what they're doing. But yet he has always wanted to play for Ty Lue, first-year head coach. I mean, David Blatt wasn't his guy, but that was a first-year head coach. He said he didn't advocate, but Brian Windhorst said he advocated for Ham. Then when that didn't go well, he was the scapegoat. So he's always, and then now with whether it be Hurley, first-year head coach as far as NBA, same thing with JJ. So my point is like there's not a coach out there that's going to come in and do something unless LeBron lets him. But for 21 years, he has told us, I don't want to play for a coach that's going to tell me what to do.
Right.
You know, so the thing about Eric Spoelstra, okay? Like Spoelstra now will go down as a legendary head coach of the NBA, but at that time, it was just Eric Spoelstra. LeBron had the power to do whatever he wanted. Now, I know that Pat Riley didn't let him have all the power. That's one reason why he left. But at the same time, I have a hard time believing that if he went up to Pat Riley and said, I'll come here, but I want to play for you, I don't think Pat Riley would have turned that down. He had the power to do that. He had the power at Cleveland when he had them by the cojones. Get Phil Jackson over here. There was legit rumblings of Phil Jackson coming to Cleveland to coach LeBron. He didn't want to play for LeBron. And this was before the posse comment. Okay. Right. Like, and I'm not being funny, but like, that was before about, you know, that. And, or maybe Phil Jackson didn't want to coach him because of those ideas in his head of, well, I don't want his posse telling me what to do. Right. Like,
which is the craziest thing in the world for Phil Jackson. I mean, if anybody knows anything about Phil Jackson, about, you know, his playing career and his life before coaching and everything like that, he's like the super most positive guy out there, most inclusive guy, hippy dippy guy out there outside of Bill Walton, RIP, to ever grace his league. So for him to have those type of comments is very weird. But for LeBron, I don't necessarily think it's about young players. I think it's about smart players, and those can basically kind of be interchangeable. But like, you look at the Austin Reeves of the world, he loves playing with Austin Reeves because Austin Reeves knew exactly and knows what he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to be at all times.
Yep.
You look at what's my guy that was on the championship team that ultimately went to the Bulls. Drawing a blank on his
bald
name.
white dude. I can't think of his name.
There you go.
That's bald whitey. There we go. Just call him that.
Your words, not mine. He loved playing with him because he was where he was supposed to be. He did what he was supposed to do. And there were more experienced players. Those are 4-year and 5-year college players. You know, so kind of like to your point about young players not having a whole bunch of experience and knowing what to do. Like, I think he'll play with anybody that's good and knows what they're doing. I think that the crop of guys that they're bringing in the NBA right now, Caruso, yes, he loved playing with him. But like, that's kind of like the problem when Reeves and Caruso are your third best player. Like, that's the problem. They shouldn't be your third best player. They should be like your fourth best player. You know what I'm saying? So like that's a problem. But so do you think it's fair for people to call LeBron a coach killer?
I don't think he's a coach killer, but I also don't think I'm just got to think of how to word that. Like I said, this goes back to I don't think as much attention to detail that he puts out there. I don't think there's a coach out there he respects. And I don't mean that he disrespects them. I just mean, I don't think there's a coach out there that he feels he's on an equal playing field with. MJ and Phil Jackson, equal playing field. Kobe,
he never,
Shaq,
quote unquote, found his guy.
Never found his guy. And I think for a guy that won 4 championships and that has been to 11 NBA finals, I think he probably equals MJ. We're not doing that, but I think he equals MJ or surpasses him in the championship department if he had better coaching throughout that run. Ty Lue now is a better coach than what he was when the Cavs were going to the finals during that stretch. Maybe navigates through a couple of those series through something like maybe they win that early on when Ty Lue's not learning how to coach. Okay. Ty Lue knew the X's and O's, but learning how to coach is a completely different thing. So I don't think he's a coach killer, but at the same time, I don't think there's ever been a coach out there that he's like, man, like AD, I got to play with him. All right. Kyrie, I want to play with him. Kevin Love, I want to play with him. I don't think there's ever been that coach that guy outside of Ty Lue, like players that he played with or knew. I don't think there's that coach out there that was an equal to him.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
I don't think he ever found his guy. Like Magic had Riley, obviously. Jordan had Phil.
But does any player today have that technically, though? I don't know if that's a LeBron thing. Like, you're the coaching player tandems, like even Jokic, no one's putting him up there with what is their coaches? See, like that's what I mean.
I think we could potentially have something with Tatum, Brown, and Joe Mazzulla.
He's grown on me. I used to not like him.
Joe Mazzulla's
the way he handles the press conferences. I'm like, oh, he's a no BS guy,
unique guy to say the least. I push back on the coach killer LeBron thing, even though I have fun with it. With
the NBA, every coach
but
is hired to be fired.
I think he's a coach maker. He's made millionaires out of some of these coaches. Like, some of these coaches are millionaires simply because of LeBron James. Some of these coaches have rings because of LeBron James. Well, not some, but like that's kind of what it is. I mean, David Blatt went to the NBA Finals because of LeBron James. Like, it wasn't anything that he did.
But that's why he's viewed as the killer almost, because Ty Lue got a second shot more so because players advocated for him more than anything. But I don't think anyone thought that, oh man, Ty Lue led him to a championship. It's Well, he was the head coach of the team that went to the. Like I said, this is like, I'm not disrespecting Ty Lue. Like, Ty Lue now is viewed as a very respected head coach in the NBA, but also hasn't won a championship since.
I think if
if
he was the Lakers coach, I think they do a lot better right now because I think that LeBron respects him and will, kind of, okay, fine. And I think the same thing, if LeBron would have stayed in Miami, he probably would have, fine, Spo, whatever, let's do it your way or whatever. I think that would have helped him out. I think those are the two coaches that he respects. I mean, Mike Brown, like he's helped make Mike Brown a lot of money. Lot of money.
There's just not one coach that has won a championship with LeBron that has won one without him.
True.
That's who's the most successful post LeBron coach? Is it Spoelstra?
Spo. Two NBA Finals appearances.
Yeah, so the two, is it the two?
Mm-hmm. They went lost to the Lakers in the bubble and this lost to the Nuggets. Yeah,
and both with Butler. Yeah, okay. So there's that, and then I put Mike Brown second just for longevity in the league and his ability to. I mean, he takes over bad teams and they become good. I'd put Mike Brown number 2.
You think Mike Brown better coach than Ty Lue?
Yes. But Mike Brown,
I'm gonna make you go watch some of those.
No, but like every team, Mike Brown has won.
I'll make you watch that Cavs Celtics game 6 again.
Mike Brown, I'm not saying he's a perfect coach, but there's a reason he hasn't won a championship since post LeBron. But my point is Mike Brown, every team he goes to, they win.
Yeah.
Now there's a ceiling there, but like, Ty Lue, not a head coach after post Cavs, and then you get Kawhi Leonard and you get the Paul George, you get a star-studded team, but it's like I've at least watched Mike Brown take a bad Kings team and turn them into contenders. Playoff contenders, not championship.
Yeah.
But from a coaching perspective, I'd put Mike Brown ahead of him. But I don't know if a lot of teams would do. I mean, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. As far as that's concerned, we have time for one more here today. We don't, but we're doing it anyways because by the time we get to tomorrow, So who's the name? What is the name of the NBA/WNBA analyst? She does a great job, and I can't think of her name.
Andrea Carter.
Andrea Carter. I like her. I like her a lot. But she went on First Take today, and I knew what point she was trying to make. It was that she loves talking about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, but she goes, these are two mid teams. Like, why are we talking about them? Like,
she was nice with the mid comment. They're bad.
Well, Caitlin Clark hasn't been to playoffs since the playoffs started today. We all know those, fighting 8 seeds, right? So, but there's too much of WNBA media that is doing this thing. It's like they're trying to go to bat for the rest of the league. And I get why they feel they have that responsibility to do so. But the thing is I keep feeling like you wanted new fans to tune into your sport, but all you've done is just criticize them since they've tuned into your sport. Now, again, these people have been obnoxious. Let's just be clear. Okay. But what you can't do is when you have new people that are tuning into your sport for a particular reason, you can't scold them once they get there. You can't say, well, you need to educate yourself on this. It's like, hold on, who the hell are you to tell me, like, I'm not tuning in for you. I'm tuning in for this, right or wrong. That's just kind of the reality of it, right? So again, I tune in today and I'm very interested in hearing what they have to say about Angel and Reese and this, that, and the other. Like, again, the clothesline, loved it, all that fun stuff. Loved that she doubled down in the post game. And I'm like, wait, you're delusional, lady. But like this stuff is, and by the way, that wasn't some people getting calls. Like, that's by the book. That was a flagrant foul. I mean, whatever. But when she said, like, we shouldn't be taught, we should be, it's kind of like what you've said, like, at the time when Connecticut was undefeated and you got the Liberty and you got Asia Wilson, you got all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, and we could talk about those, but to say, these new fans need to educate themselves on the teams around the league and all this. And I'm like, yeah, but you kind of got to let that breathe a bit. It can't just be, okay, you're here, but you need to eat over here. So here's the example I gave. I did this on the show the other day where I said, imagine if there's a mom and pop shop that no one's ever heard of. Okay. This sounds disrespectful to the league, not meaning to, but it's the reality. A mom and pop restaurant, they have great lasagna. It's a family recipe, great lasagna, right? And this mom and pop shop's been around forever. Some people have heard about it and they go there for this lasagna. It's okay, but they're struggling business wise. But Jeff Ruby says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I know this family, they're very cool. I'm going to go ahead and let you serve my steaks at your restaurant. So start promoting that. We have these really good steaks now from Jeff. Wow, cool. Everyone shows up to this restaurant now because of Jeff Ruby's steaks. And if you walk in and you say, okay, they're here for the steaks, we got to make sure we got these steaks, keep serving them the steaks, yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. You'll keep business going. And then over time, all right, let's see what else is on this menu over time. But you can't have them the second they come in to have this steak, that's the only reason they're at your restaurant at this particular time is because of this new steak that you promoted that everyone's heard about. that everyone's interested in and cares about and they're craving. What you can't do is the second they walk in, you want the steak. I've had this lasagna at this place this whole time we've been open. I can't believe you're not going to try this lasagna, but fine, have the steak. Educate yourself on the menu, though. You're going to push those people away. Now, a little bit of an aggressive example, but that's basically what they are doing. Let them come in and enjoy the steak, and eventually they're going to come enough times where they're getting the steak, and they're going to be like, all right, let's see what else they got. And then they start to expand on the menu a bit. It's a very weird example.
No, it's
It's
a good example. It's a good example. My only rebuttal is, are people truly enjoying what they're seeing? Because I don't think people are truly enjoying the basketball here. I think people are coming here to fight. I don't think they're coming in there to like, oh man, let's kick back and enjoy a good Saturday afternoon game. I think they're coming in with whatever side of the fence that you're rooting for, looking to start a fight on social media and start an argument. I think what happened in that game yesterday, obviously it was a flagrant foul. Whoop-de-doo, not a big to-do.
I still think it's a basketball play.
Yeah,
I think we know. It's a basketball.
I mean, if anybody has ever played pickup basketball before, you've been hit in the head because somebody tried to block a shot. It's a flagrant foul by the letter of law. Shoot 2 free throws, keep pushing. But I think that and was overshadowed from Caitlin Clark, in my opinion, having her best game of her career. 23 points, 8 rebounds. I want to say 9 assists.
9 assists, yeah.
Like, she was balling. Like, to me, that's the story. Not a flagrant foul that happens every single game. Earlier that day, Skylar Diggins' teeth got knocked out. Not front page news because obviously she's not Caitlin Clark. But what I'm saying is the story is she just had her best game after having a terrible game. So, like, all right, is she about to start getting her sea legs? Like, is she about to start really putting back-to-back good games together? Like, to me, that's the story. And I totally understand. I'm on an island that I'm a person that I am still entertained by the actual games. Like, I don't necessarily need...
You're a 1%.
Yeah, I'm a 1%er. Like,
cave to you, dude.
Yes. So many people need extra storylines, need this and that. And hey, that's what floats people boat. That's on you. But I'm here for the game. And I was watching her. They moved her off the ball. She wasn't playing as much point guard, so she played more shooting guard. So, hey, you guys notice the turnovers are down because she's not handling the ball as much. There's not as much pressure put on her to, hey, we want you to initiate the offense. We need you to score 20 points, and we need you to do this as well. No, they moved her off the ball, so it's allowing her to play better basketball. Like that right there, that's the talking part. That's like, hey, if she can continue to do this, then maybe she can turn into that star that everybody wants her to become. Not a flagrant foul. Like a flagrant foul. Guess what's going to happen tonight in the NBA Finals? A flagrant foul. Like, it's just a flagrant foul.
To feed off that real quick, the flagrant foul was the got the people's attention, right?
Yeah.
Saw it. Oh, okay. What I actually thought the way they made it sound on social media is that she just clotheslined from held her. Like, right? Like, no. So I saw the replay. I'm like, whatever. It's Angel getting the flagrant on Caitlin. That's okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's the name value. Yeah.
But this is where Angel has to start to be held accountable on some stuff too. And it's not just her, it's a lot of players that are doing the subtle jabs at Caitlin Clark, because that stuff's getting old too. Like she's playing a role in this, and she's trying to do like when LeBron tried to play the villain and then LeBron crumbled because he tried to play the villain. Now, to Angel's credit, she's at least putting up some decent numbers, very good numbers, double. Okay. But when she went in the post game and did like, that's what pissed everybody off, was that saying, that the officials were giving her pissed, calls
even more. I will say about that.
That's what I mean by like that stoked the flame.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. She knows what she's doing. The thing about it is, and I understand what she's trying to say. She's not presenting it well. The Chicago Sky are a inside-outside team. They play 3 bigs at one time. They play her, who's a forward. They play Cardoza from South Carolina, she's a center. And they play Harrison from Tennessee. She's also a power forward.
Yep.
So their whole game plan is to rebound. Like, hey, shoot it, and we'll rebound it and take it back up. We're going to play inside-out basketball. I mean, normally when you play inside-out, you get more foul calls because you're playing more aggressive than the jump shooting team that is the Indiana Fever. I get what you're saying. Probably shouldn't have said that. That should be a coach's talking point, not a player's talking point, especially a rookie player's talking point. She better off going out there and pulling the Rasheed Wallace.
But it was what she
Both
said.
teams play hard, man.
But when she said someone, not the team.
Yeah.
She said someone's getting a Caitlyn didn't get no
That
special
was
whistle.
you
The
smacked
whole
her in the
narrative
head.
is that the refs have not taken care of her at all this whole time, and now she's getting a special whistle.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. And we talk about the phrase of educating yourself. The Angel needs to educate herself on that. She, being Angel, draws the most fouls in the WNBA. Her as a rookie, not Asia Wilson, the MVP of the league, not Stewie, a 2-time MVP of the league. Her as a rookie draws more fouls than anybody. And then on the flip side, no other player has been fouled as much as Caitlin Clark, and she's tied for 3 technical fouls in the WNBA for number 1. So this isn't a ref thing. This is a y'all thing. This is a player thing. They're not picking on anybody. The refs aren't picking on anybody. They're calling it how they see it. And that was clearly by the letter of a law of flagrant foul. You swing for the ball and miss and hit somebody's head. It's a flagrant.
So the other misconception too that she tried saying was, I'm making a play for the ball. That's what I always do. Well, Caitlin Clark had 2 blocks in that game yesterday. She tied the season total of blocks that Angel Reese has. She's not a shot block. By the way, not mad at that, but that is again, when someone drives past you, goes up for a layup, of course you're going to reach for it. And I don't even care that even if she did it on purpose, I don't even care about that. But don't go to the mic afterwards and do that. And you can. And for anyone out there that says, well, people are hating on her because she's a woman and this, that, and the other narratives. No, Draymond gets ripped for the same stuff. Draymond, this talking point is his antics in the game. But then guess what? He runs to his podcast or the post game. Then he says something even sillier. And then that's when everyone torches him on there. I know this sounds wild, but they're the women are being treated. I don't think they're being treated different than the men. In fact, what it is I think they're being treated like the men. And that's been the problem, is because people are uncomfortable when they're seeing people attack women on social media when and it sounds like, oh, you're getting what you asked for. But you wanted eyes on your product.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is unfortunately, this is how the men's game is dissected too. You had Brian Windhorst basically just destroy Luka. Can you imagine if someone did that to a WNBA player in the finals? Everyone would rip that reporter and say, "Oh my gosh, you made it about that individual and their bad game. You need to be talking about the great plays that the other team was making." That's how we're handling women's sports. But with the men's sport, it's, yeah, man, he let Luka have it, man. He torched Luka, man. Luka deserved that. This is why, it's not so much about the fans needing to educate themselves. I think that the media on that side also needs to be very realistic about what's going on. You're actually getting a little respect, as dumb as that sounds, because you're getting the same treatment. You're getting the same bad treatment that everyone else is getting, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not right. It's not wrong. Counter to your point too about people wanting to go there to fight. Don't let social media win the war here. And that's what's winning.
Right.
Because there's 17,000 people showing up to watch Caitlin Clark play, and there's no fights breaking out at these games. There's no wars breaking out at these games. There's other games outside of Caitlin Clark that's getting, 10,000 plus fans at games that she's not involved in. And there's not battles and fights going on there. But social media is where everything happens. And then we let that be the perception for everything. Caitlin Clark is the centerpiece for the success of a lot of things happening.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been, you have media and players attacking her. Let it breathe. If 5 years from now you're still not getting credit, I could see what. But right now, it sucks. It's egos. These are competitive people. Forget women. Forget male. Forget black. Forget white. Competitive individuals. They're all
fighting for their spot. They're fighting for their spot.
So that's really what it comes down to.
I think this Olympic break is the best thing that could happen for the WNBA. I was talking to my brother about this. I said, I think the WNBA, Caitlin Clark's manager / agent, and Nike have all done her a disservice by leaps and miles, especially Nike. And you know how much I love Nike. But you have a young lady entering a league that they have a rapport with, and they just dealt with a situation with an outspoken person being Colin Kaepernick. So you would imagine that they would have people in place to help guide her through this. It seems as if she's out there on a life raft all by herself answering these questions. So when the whole talk about, people using Angel and Caitlin to push their agenda, quote unquote, their agenda, and she's left out there to answer those questions, and she seems unprepared to answer those questions, that is the fault of her agency. That is the fault of Nike not trying to help her out through this situation. And for people to expect her to have the answers to this stuff, and for people to expect her to just run up there and have the perfect response. She's 22 years old. She's not going to have the perfect response. And for the people that say like, oh man, she needs to denounce racism and denounce it. Obviously, that's what we will all want her to say, but to have the right words to say at that moment is not fair to her. And that's not everybody's journey. That's just not everybody's journey. Everybody's journey isn't to be an activist. She constantly says, I'm just here to play basketball. I'm just here to play basketball. And if she wants to be an activist later on in life where she gets a little bit more experience, God forbid, then by all means. But I think she's been put in a very unfair situation. All these women, especially now, now that the light is on them, I think they're being put in a very tough spot. So they're obviously being judged from how they're playing on the basketball court, which is fair game. But, they're being sexualized. They're also being judged on how their appearance. Like, are we judging, Luka, what he's wearing to game 5 tonight? Like, it's a constant like, oh, they're not good enough for this. They're not getting this because of that. It's a lot going on in this league right now. And I think the powers that be have failed all these women, to be perfectly honest. Like, this is I know you talk about any publicity is good publicity. I'm not.
We've passed that point.
Okay.
We've passed.
Okay.
At the beginning,
I wasn't here last week.
No. I'm sorry.
No. Because I got
I thought this would have died down by now.
Very uncomfortable with some of these conversations.
It's gonna get worse.
So that's why I said this Olympic break. I think this is the best thing that could happen for the WNBA. Hey, focus on the Olympics for a month. Let's come back and reassess while they're playing and winning the gold medal. Let's try to get some things in order, some type of structure and some type of game plan to deal with this back half of the season, because you're right. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So people are still going to be talking and chirping. It's going to be on CNN. It's going to be on Fox. I mean, it was the first story I saw on Fox News when I was at the gym this morning at 6 a.m. It was top of the hour headlines. I was like, a flagrant fouls, top of the hour headlines on Fox News and CNN. Are you serious? But it's given, the people on social media what they want, like you said.
And keep in mind, too, I don't think the Olympics, it's going to give it a little bit of a cool down period, but I'm here to tell you, you guys ready for this? A lot of Americans out there will be tuning in to root against them.
Oh, gosh.
Because they kept Caitlin Clark off, right?
Oh, gosh.
So you deserve to not win the gold medal, right? As far as that's concerned. But that led to that Shimei Gumake and the back and forth Monica McNutt and Stephen A last week when you were off.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, people don't like it. Stephen A wasn't wrong. The women weren't wrong either.
Right.
Because he's coming at it from a business show prep standpoint. That's why you had Shannon Sharp yelling in the background. That's not how TV works. The saying, well, you need to be talking about Asia Wilson, to lead off your show. And it's like, no. So I've said this before. I've been to New York before when I went with Bobby, and I sat back and I watched. They have 9 segments and they have 15 segments planned. 15 segments planned for a 9-segment show. And if you get to all 15 segments, it means you had a bad show, because that means none of those segments took off. Okay. Right. So with that being said, for everyone out there that says, they talk too much Cowboys, they talk too much. That's not, Stephen A hates the Cowboys. He wouldn't talk Cowboys if he didn't have to. Okay. All they talk is LeBron. All right. The LeBron coach, the Lakers coaching search that dominated the NBA finals coverage last week. A coaching search for a team, a coaching search for a guy to come in to lead the Lakers to a play-in appearance next year. That dominated the finals, because this finals is not, it's not the ratings delivering. The ratings are bad. That interest isn't there. And they had to follow. Everyone's like, man, that's why the finals are bad, because of the pregame cover. No, the pregame is having to lean into the stuff that you want to hear about. So when I was there, they have this metric system that like they can follow the ratings, they can follow the social media engagement, everything. When they're talking about something, if that's going up, they're going to keep talking about it. They're going to roll it over. They're going to maybe not roll it over to the next segment. They're going to come back to it and reset it coming up in a segment or two. So saying that, first take, if they talk about Asia Wilson, now she'll be a household name across the board. No, they talk Asia Wilson, there'll be a lot of people, not disrespectful, saying, who the hell's Asia Wilson?
Right.
Never heard of her, changing the channel, because that's what those metrics show. So, like, that's why it's not realistic. Like, that's why this has just led to wars of everything. It's like everyone doesn't really know what's happening with who to blame for everything. So they're blaming Stephen A. Smith. And then he's sounding like an idiot saying no one's heard of Monica McNutt. If it wasn't for me. And I'm like, oh, that's so me. Like, that's a problem too. So then it led to all the female analysts coming out to have her back. Then Jon Stewart has her on, which I thought was cool to basically kind of give her that assurance. But, hey, we know who you are, blah, blah, blah. And it's led to a lot of divide. And it's not even like it starts at Caitlin Clark, but it's not about, it's only June.
It's not November.
Yeah. So I say all of this because there's just like this idea, and this goes back to like the marketing remember when we talk about baseball and their responsibility to market their players? You don't take no-name players, put them in a Subway commercial, and now everyone knows who they are because they were in a Subway commercial. You have to be a somebody to be in the Subway commercial because that's why they want you in the Subway commercial to expand the brand. That's kind of the TV approach. Right or wrong, it's a cutthroat thing. Okay, right or wrong, it's a cutthroat thing. All you guys talk is NFL. Kev would love to talk association every day. Okay, and I'm the meanie that sticks to the NFL talk all the time because that's what moves the needle, right? Like, so it's an 85% NFL show with Browns, Bengals, AFC North, and then college football, and then association and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese talk sprinkled in whenever we can do it. But the bottom line is the metrics dominate everything. It's not what the hosts are wanting to talk about. It's what you are wanting to listen to. And that's just the reality of it. But there's just a clash of everything going on.
And those people that want more of the WNBA talk, there's podcasts for that as well. Like, you can get your fix for WNBA and people to talk what you want to talk about on podcasts and other forums. Like, I struggle to say this if the WNBA has a niche audience. You think that's fair to say?
Being mean, I don't think they have a big audience. I don't. And that's why, but you can't grow it. Like the NBA, you can't grow it overnight.
Right.
And I don't even think by this point next season that the audience will necessarily be grown. The problem is, remember I said earlier, we're past that point now where any coverage is good coverage because now it's segmented. And I'm not talking black and white, although it kind of is leaning that way or has the feel of that. There's people hate watching it now.
Yes.
To where there was curiosity watching at the beginning. Now it's turning into hate watching. You're not growing the sport that way.
Yes.
And I'm not saying they've missed the boat or that they've ruined it, but it's going to take some work. You talked about the PR campaigns. It's going to take Nike. It's going to take the NBA. It's going to take Adam Silver. It's going to take more than just the WNBA to fix it, because the bottom line is there are people that have made up their mind. I hate all the other players and I like Caitlin Clark. And and at first I thought that was a good thing. Not the divide, but I mean like the villain. And because that's what the NBA is. That's what all sports are to a certain extent. But this is taking on a whole new world. But the players are to blame a little. The fans are to blame. The media is to blame.
Yeah, everybody has a part to play.
Everyone's played a role as far as that's concerned. When it's all said and done. My last point on this too. I'm about done trying to defend Caitlin Clark. She has to defend herself too, and I don't mean she knocks your ass down, you get up in her face too. You got to show a little like Caitlin Clark, the cute little thing of kill him with kindness. That's only going so far. People are ripping her teammates, and here's the thing: they're following her lead. Just like Angel Reese's toughness, her teammates are following her lead. Like when she's a physical player, guess what? That brings out the physicality in her other teammates, and they're going to follow her lead. Well, the softness. As Caitlin Clark, she's tough, but I think she's being soft, letting everyone just punk her constantly. Like one time, I just want to see her be mean. One time, I want to see her just all of a sudden pop off. Like she does it to officials. I've seen that. I've seen her dad have to tell her to calm the hell down from the stands. So she's not always poised. Right. Why is it that the defenseless official gets the best of the most to Caitlin Clark, but the girl that just clotheslined you just get up and walk to the other end of the floor? Like at some point, I need to see that from you too. Like, I don't need you slapping and punching and screaming and doing all this.
Or even the good old the clap, smile.
Do this, bring this back. Something. By the way, where's this? Remember, this is what started it all. And it wasn't Angel Reese's "You Can't See Me" that started it all.
When you're shooting 28%, you probably can't do that.
Who?
Caitlin. But like I said.
Angel too.
Yeah. Like, hey, they just, I don't know. Like, there was so much going on in that game. And I think, like I said earlier, the biggest takeaway from that game is she had a great game. But we're not talking about the great game. We're talking about the flagrant foul.
Mm-hmm. But the fans that go to those games, like there are legitimate fans.
Right.
But they're just not on They're not all the social media fans as far as that goes. But the other stuff too, like I said, the flagrant foul may have got people's attention, but I do blame Angel Reese last night for the comments. That's what made it worse. Because the reason I'm saying that, the replay of the flagrant foul is what segues into here's Angel Reese in the postgame.
Right.
To where before it would have been, oh, the Fever, they're in the 8th spot now if the playoffs started today of, interesting moment in the flagrant foul between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and then you move on. But then now you have the comments, you have her voice to put with the aggression in the game, which is not wrong with it. But now it sounds like, oh, see, now you're just doing it because you don't like her. Now you're blaming her for the officials taking it. Now it just comes like she's making it worse when it comes to that. But I think they're done playing for the year, right?
No, they got another game Saturday, 4:00.
But is that the last one?
Yeah.
See, I would just have them play every damn night. I just have them play every night as far as that's concerned.
Round 15. Fight.
Welcome back. Yeah. So I just did. We have another half hour still, but damn, I've done 3.5 hours today.
Look at you.
No, 4.5 hours.
Look at you.
4.5 hours today.
Radio man. Yeah, that's you.
Yep. Paid like radio. Paid like a radio man as far as that's concerned. All right. We'll be right back. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.